Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Christine Flynn. I'm a grant manager here with the Office of Illinois Works, and I'm very excited to join all of you today and start walking through the Illinois Works reporting system with you. So over the course of the next about 3 hours, we are going to be walking through some basics of the Illinois Works reporting system. And then for kind of the second half, we are going to be actually doing some hands-on practice. So we'll be going through specific tools and functions that are just for program administrators. And then you'll have time to actually practice those tools and functions today. So I do just ask, make sure that you're in a space that is kind of conducive to that engagement. You're able to follow along as we go through the system, because this is really meant to be a real kind of hands-on training. So you all have the ability to practice what we are learning. So just a reminder, this session is for a specific audience. So it is only for program administrators, managers, coordinators, and data entry coordinators. The reason for this is because Illinois Works reporting system has several different types of access, so different roles that have different abilities within the system. And program administrators have a specific type of access that others do not. So those in this room are going to have the ability to see compliance reports in the system. You'll be able to see specific organizational information in the system, reporting. So if you are on this call, you now have that access in the system. But if there's anyone on this call who you feel like you should not have access to that, please feel free to jump off now. If you, as you're sitting here, think there are other people in your team who should have that level of access, you also can just make sure to reach out to them, and we can get them kind of set up in the system to make sure they have the proper access here. So let's go ahead and get started. So it looks like we might have just lost our shared screen here.
We did, and I'll get that right back up in a second here.
Okay, great, no problem. Thank you so much, Gia. So while Gia is working on that, I just want to introduce you to a couple of people that are joining me today that are members of the Illinois Works team. So the first one I want to introduce is Dan Martinez, who is the newest addition to our team as a grant manager. Dan, if you can go ahead and say hello.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm excited for everyone to be here. Looking forward to this interactive training session.
Great, thanks, Dan. So we also have Dr. Vera Lee Robinson, who is our program coach, and she is going to be a huge support to all of you in programmatic areas, but also in Illinois Works reporting system. So Vera Lee, if you could go ahead and say hello.
Good morning, everyone. Looking forward to working with you. Welcome back.
And then last but certainly not least, we have our instructional designer extraordinaire, Dr. Gia Suggs. Gia, I don't want to disturb you as you're sharing, but if you can say hello to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Good to see everyone again, and welcome.
Thank you all. So thank you to the team for joining me, and thank you all again for joining us in this presentation. So let's jump into kind of the course description, what we're going to be talking about today. So Illinois Works, as you likely all know by now, was created as a result of Governor Pritzker's commitment to expanding equity in the Illinois construction workforce. And part of that initiative was making sure that we are having a real impact. So making sure we're tracking metrics and we can really show that we are moving that needle. And so the Office of Illinois Works, in partnership with the Southern Illinois University Center for Workforce Development, developed the Illinois Works reporting system. So you will hear us call it IWRS for short. And this system is designed to track information about participant progress and engagement, as well as compliance, so your grantee compliance. So during this course, are going to provide you information about IWRS. We're going to navigate instructions on how to use certain tools and functions. And then we'll actually go through practice sessions where you on your side can navigate the system as well. So the course objectives for today are to identify the 4 Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship technologies, describe the role of Illinois Works reporting system, explain the relationship between IWRS and the pre-apprenticeship lifecycle, navigate the IWRS main page, add and update provider information, manage users, so these are your staff members in the system, and then access IWRS reporting tools. Now, just as a reminder, I know it's definitely possible there are people on your team who are not able to make it today, or there are parts of this training that you're going to want to come back and revisit. I just want to remind everyone this session is being recorded, and you can find this recording usually within 48 business hours. It will be posted up on the Illinois Works Partner Guide. So that is where all of our recorded webinars are available, including this one in the near future. So in the chat right now, you will see a copy of the link to the Illinois Works Partner Guide. I suggest you favorite that page. It's really a hub of information for our system and for the program at large. Thank you, Dan. Dan has put that link in the chat there. So before we go ahead and get started, are there any questions about what I've covered so far or about this training in general? I'm not seeing any questions. So great, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm actually going to hand it off now to Dan to do some learner introductions and walk you through some important features of our platform. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you, Christine. So one of the key aspects of the Office of Illinois Works is the philosophy of continuous improvement. And of course, one of the best methods for improving is to learn from others. So while we do these professional development sessions, we want to foster the interaction between the organizations. So we're going to continue to promote introductions amongst each other in the hope of continuing that engagement between each of your organizations. Our goals in this section will be to introduce ourselves to one another and to ensure that you're fully engaged. We want to make sure that everyone is familiar with the technology that we use to deliver these webinars. So if we could go to the introduction slide. Since the Office of Illinois Works staff has already introduced ourselves, it's now going to be your turn. But don't do anything yet. This is where we're going to test your listening skills. In the chat, please place your name, and if you could, next to your name, place an asterisk next to it if you are familiar with WebEx technologies, and then include your organization, your role, and your location. So I've just sent an example of how that should look. So if you could go ahead and do that now, I'd appreciate it. Crystal, thank you very much. Welcome. We're glad to have you here. Alicia, thank you. Welcome. Again, the hope here is that you'll recognize some names, you'll learn some new names, and we'll all be able to learn from one another. Carrie, welcome. Adam, good to have you here. Jonathan, hello again. Greg, welcome. I think this is the first IWRS training, so perfect. Alejandro and Kendra, everyone's seems to have a pretty good feel for utilizing the chat feature. We're running about 50-50 on those asterisks, so some of you are familiar with WebEx. Some of us are a little bit less so. Mike, Merrick, good to see you both again. Tanya, welcome. William, Rita. So as you can all see in the chat, as you've entered your information, there's a lot of folks here we can learn from each other. And as we go through these professional developments, we'll get to know each other a little bit better. But thank you. So while we continue to do that, enter your names in the chat if you haven't already done so. Gia, if we could go back to the WebEx slide just very quickly. I want to, since there were some people that had not included that asterisk, we want to make sure that they are familiar with utilizing WebEx. There are a couple things to note. One of the most important is muting your line. I think most of you have done a pretty good job of that already. Please make sure your line is muted. And there are opportunities for questions, so make sure you can unmute your line there. Stop and start your video. While we like to see smiling faces, we understand that during training sessions it might be easier to have your video off, but you're welcome to turn it on and off at any time. If we are going over something that you have a question about, you're welcome to raise your hand. We do always try to have a question period at the end of each session. So we'll make sure that we answer any questions, and you can always enter them in the chat as well. And there are emojis to help convey what you're experiencing during the training. So if you're excited about something, if you're confused about something, you can test out those emojis there. So if I could have everyone maybe throw out a reaction, maybe give us a thumbs up, maybe a wow, just to make sure we're all able to use that. If you do have any questions, thank you, Alejandro, Carrie, you guys are right on it. I appreciate it. Again, we just want to make sure everyone's very comfortable with the technology. There's the chat there. We've all been already using that. So I think that pretty much covers the WebEx tutorial. Does anyone have any questions? You can unmute your line if you're having difficulty with the chat or WebEx, or you can enter it into the chat. Any questions about WebEx or this portion? Okay, great. I think we have one more section on the one more chat feature here. Can we move forward one slide, two slides? Yeah, here we go. So again, this training overall is about IWRS, and IWRS is essentially a data management system. So we'd like to just gauge everyone's comfort level and experience on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being very comfortable and experienced with data management systems, and 1 being very new to the use of a data management system. So if you can throw that in the chat, that'll help convey to everyone kind of a level set. And again, we've done introductions. We've shared our roles and our organizations. So if you're entering a 1 in the chat, you might want to take note of some of the people that are entering 5s. Again, we're interested in learning from one another and sharing that knowledge early and often. So thank you all very much. I can see we're really running the gamut here, and that's good. Again, no one was necessarily expected to have a lot of data management experience coming into this. Certainly wasn't a requirement, and that's why we're here doing the training today. For those of you that are a little bit more comfortable with it and have experience with it, hopefully you'll be able to pick up on it very quickly as well. So, all right, thank you. I think everyone's had a chance to vote or to convey their experience level. So if we can go to the next slide, that's really just the end of this section. Do you have any questions, comments, thoughts at this time? All right. We're going to move back to section 3. I'm going to hand it back over to Christine. Thank you, Christine.
Great. Thank you, Dan. And thank you everyone for engaging in the chat. That's really helpful for me, certainly as we're going through this training, to understand kind of where you guys are all sitting as far as your familiarity with data management systems. As Dan said, that is not a requirement of our program that you are, well versed in how to run a data management system. We will certainly train you on this one and provide any sort of technical assistance that you may need. So if you are sitting in that kind of 1 or 2 camp, do not worry. We are here to help you, and we'll answer any of your questions as we kind of navigate today and into future training. So let's now go ahead and do just a quick introduction to the Illinois Works reporting system. So for some of you who are in the administrator orientation, this might be somewhat familiar to you, but we really just want to kind of lay a foundation to make sure we're all on the same page. So by the end of this section, you will be able to list the key Illinois Works technologies, describe the purpose of the Illinois Works reporting system, and explain the relationship between IWRS and the pre-apprentice lifecycle. So Illinois Works leverages several different types of technology. On your screen here, you can see our 4 key technologies. So the first being Illinois Works reporting system, which we'll discuss today, the applicant tracking system, which debuted last year, the Illinois Works heat map, and the Illinois Works partner guide, which is located on Illinois workNet. So all of these work together to ensure that we have, as much information both from you, but also available to you. So we are going to really delve into IWRS today. So IWRS is as we just kind of discussed, a data management system. So it's both data management, but it's also reporting. So that's a real key aspect of this system that might be different from some other systems that you worked on. It not only manages your data, but we use it for all of our compliance reporting. So it serves kind of a dual purpose. And it's designed to allow all of you to track pre-apprenticeship program activities. Now, as I said, this is an internal facing system. So we use this both to kind of manage your data, your participant data, so attendance, post-assessment scores, enrollments, program completions, but also for compliance reporting. And it's important to note that this system is the only system that we can use for compliance reporting. So I know many of you out there may have an alternate database or may have a way that you track your participants in a file, either digital or paper. But for our system, we can only look at the data in IWRS. So if it is not in the system, while we, may fully believe that it has happened on the ground, we cannot count it for compliance. So it's really important to remember that entering data into IWRS is just as important as the activities you're doing with your participants, because if we cannot see it in the system, we have no visibility into what's happening on the ground. So I just really like to emphasize that point there. So the Illinois Works reporting system, as I noted earlier, was designed in partnership with SIU's Center for Workforce Development, and it originally debuted in February of last year, so of 2022. But over the last year and even into this year, there have been many updates that have been made, so this system is constantly growing. And IWRS allows grantees to track pre-apprenticeship program inquiries, participants, and grantee partnerships. This system also allows programs to track key information about participants' progress through their engagement with the program, including participant applications, enrollment announcements, career and support service assessments, enrollment in training modules, attendance, training completion, transitions, and follow-up post-completion. So it tracks a lot of data, kind of the moral of the story there. So this graphic on your screen here, many of you will recognize it. This is the pre-apprentice life cycle. And the items that I just listed out that IWRS tracks, they are all part of this life cycle. So this life cycle outlines the steps that participants take as they move through the pre-apprenticeship program. So as you can see, it starts with outreach and recruitment, so that initial contact, and it goes all the way to post-transition follow-up. The Illinois Works pre-apprentice program requirements are organized into this life cycle. So you will follow this life cycle as you go through the requirements of providing the program. But we've also designed IWRS to accept data in this timeline as well. So the system will start with your outreach and recruitment, and then you will track that individual all the way through that post-transition follow-up. And that is the way the system is designed to accept the data for each participant as well. So for example, so on your screen, you will see kind of animating here some of the data that IWRS tracks. So you can see at each pre-apprentice life cycle stage, how many individuals we had entered in the system throughout last year. So this data was pulled in January of this year and gives you a good idea of kind of the hard work that our grantees did last year. So you can see at the beginning of this year, we still had about 378 inquiries in the system. So our grantees were creating those pipelines. We, over the course of the year, had nearly 1,600 applicants. We had 1,049 enrollments, 620 completions, 517 transitions, and then 200 individuals who we had entered into active tracking. So they are now, they're fully transitioned, and we're now tracking them over the course of the next year, trying to see where they go, if they maintain their registered apprenticeship program status. And then beyond that, our team picks up long-term tracking. So you can just see on this screen how that data is tracked in IWRS and how it follows that timeline. So before I move on to our kind of first tutorial where we're actually going to get into IWRS, are there any questions about what I just reviewed? So kind of the basics of IWRS. Feel free to unmute if you have any questions or put them in the chat. All right, I'm not seeing anyone in the chat. I don't know, Dan, if you have anyone on your end.
No, no questions.
Okay, all right. Well, let's get into IWRS. Who's excited? Can I see some emojis? I know databases are extremely exciting. There we go. All right, so we got some cheers, some applause. Awesome. Thank you, Tanya, Carrie, Merrick. Thank you, guys. All right, let's jump into our next section. All right, so in this section, section 4, we are going to be walking through the IWRS main page. So during this section, you are going to actually have the chance to sign in through Illinois workNet. You're going to access IWRS, and then you're going to identify different graphics and icons that are on the navigation bar on that main page of IWRS. So these are our objectives here for section 4. So let's first, before we kind of actually have you sign in, I just want to review some general information about how to access IWRS. So as a grantee program administrator, SIU has already gone ahead and pre-added you as a program administrator to IWRS. So if you have registered for this training today, I've already had them set you up as a program administrator in the system. So we'll review in a little bit kind of why that's different. But I just want to make it very clear as we go through this, if for any reason as we're going through the system, you find that you maybe don't have certain features that we're showing on the screen, if you can please just throw a comment in the chat, we can go ahead and we'll kind of document your name and we'll follow up with you after the training just to make sure that SIU has you kind of set and you have everything ready to go. Just one moment. It looks like we might just be having a little bit of technical difficulty. Okay, so it just looks like Gia's just getting the screen reset up here. We had some technical difficulties with the share feature. So while she is working on that, I just want to talk with you about oh, there we go, perfect. So I just want to talk with you about the roles in IWRS. So as I was just saying, all of you have been added as a service provider program administrator, which is the official title in IWRS. And so that with that role, you have access to designated participants. So all of the participants that get added for your organization, you will have access to your organization's information, and you will also have specific reports available to you. Now, some of those features, specifically the grantee information and specific reports, are not available to the general service provider role. So that is the first one on your screen. So service provider, those are going to be your individuals who are on your team who are just maintaining your participant information. So these can be your outreach and recruitment coordinators, your transition service coordinators, wraparound service, support service, transition coordinators. So if all they need to do is to be able to access participant information, so add or edit, they're going to be a service provider. Now, if they need higher level access, so they need, access to all of your compliance information, if they need access to reporting, so maybe you have a grant manager or a grant monitor that you have on staff, you're going to want to make sure they have this service provider program administrator access, because that will give them all of the details that they need. Now, the next two levels, so program managers and super administrators, those are the roles that exist on our team. So a program manager, that's someone who will just have access to a certain regional level access or regional level data. So it might be specific grantees that we limit their access to, so they can only see those individual organizations. But then super administrators, that is the status that both I and Dan have. And that allows us to see all of the data in the whole system. So that also gives us some privileges around kind of resetting staff passwords or helping to see kind of back end aspects of the system. But if you have questions about the system, we're a good place to start because we have that access. But of course, SIU has, I don't know what they call it, like super admin access, because they can actually get into the back end code. So if you get to the point where there really is something in the system that is not working, they are the ones who are going to actually make those updates. So just wanted to review these roles because it's important for you to understand kind of where your role is and then where the role of the rest of your team will be, depending on their access. So let's move on now. And let's talk about how to sign in to the Illinois Works reporting system. So you have your kind of choice here. I'm going to walk through how to access the system. You can feel free to follow along as I walk through it. But also please know we will have a dedicated practice at the end of this section where I'll walk through it again. So if you want to listen to it this first time and then do the practice, that's great. If you want to follow along now, great as well. Really up to your comfort level. So the screen or the slide that you see here, this is the main page of IllinoisWorkNet.com. So the Illinois Works reporting system is hosted on Illinois workNet. So the way to access the system is we have to start by actually logging into Illinois workNet. So Dan has gone ahead and put the link in the chat for you. So you can navigate to illinoisworknet.com. And on that main screen, up in the left-hand corner, you have a couple of options. So highlighted here, you can see this is the sign up option. So if for whatever reason you do not have access already to the system or you need staff to sign up for the system, this is where they'll go to get a new Illinois workNet account. But for us, we're going to be talking about logging in. So right next to that sign up, to the left of it, you can see a little icon that says log in. So when you click on that, it's going to take you to a login screen in which you will input your username and password that you set up when you set up your Illinois workNet account. So for those of you who are following along right now, feel free to go ahead, click that login feature and log into Illinois workNet. For those who are not currently logging in, what will happen next is you have a couple of options on how to actually get into the Illinois Works reporting system. So this is maybe a little technical, but I just want to make sure you guys kind of understand how these work together. You have to sign into Illinois workNet, and then Illinois workNet will then allow you access to IWRS. So signing into Illinois workNet is that first step. So once you're signed in, there are a couple of different ways to actually access your participant information. So one way you can see on the screen here, as Gia has highlighted, once you've logged in, it will bring you back to that main page of Illinois workNet. And you can scroll all the way down to the bottom of that main page where you'll see state partner resources. Now, if you then click the View More button, you will see all of the partner resources that Illinois workNet offers. So these are all of the different programs that Illinois workNet builds databases for currently. And if you scroll to the bottom, that last row, you will see the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program logo. And if you go ahead and click on that, that is going to take you to the Illinois Works Partner Guide. So again, the Illinois Works Partner Guide is kind of the hub of information for our program. That is where all of our webinars are, where we have written instructions, but it's also a way that you can access the Illinois Works reporting system. So here on the screen, you can see once you click on that square, our logo, it will bring you over to kind of this bottom box here that says all resources. So that is a snapshot from the Illinois Works Partner Guide. And then you will see these 4 circles. All the way to the left, you have a circle that has kind of 4 hands putting a puzzle piece together. That is your kind of doorway into the Illinois Works reporting system. So once you click on that, you will be able to get into kind of the back end of Illinois Works reporting system, and then you will be able to access your participant information. Now, I want to just walk you through kind of an alternate way. I did say there's a few different ways. I just want to go over one more way to get in. So I'm actually, this is unplanned, so I apologize, Gia. If you can just scoot back one slide for me, or actually 2 slides for me. So I just want to show you on the main page of Illinois workNet. So if Gia, we can just go back one more. Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm throwing Gia for a loop here, so I apologize. So the other way to get in is on that main page of Illinois workNet. So you can see when you click on log in, you will log into the system. It will ask for your username. It will ask for your password. And then what will happen is you'll be brought back to this main page. But instead of it just being kind of this normal page that's still asking you to log in, you will have a new navigation bar that shows up. This navigation bar will say My Dashboard, it'll say Messages, Bookmarks. It has a couple of different features. But to log into IWRS, all you'll have to do is click on My Dashboard, and you'll have a pop-up screen come up with several different options. And one of those options is Customer Support Center. So you'll click on that Customer Support Center, and it's going to bring you into Illinois Works reporting system. So again, if you go through that way, or you go through the way where you click on the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program logo, either way is going to bring you to the same place. It just comes down to how you want to navigate that. So I know that was a little bit technical. We are going to practice it, but before we kind of move on to the next portion, are there any questions about logging into Illinois Works reporting system? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're just gonna go and practice how to do this now. So if you guys can just give me a thumbs up emoji if you guys are ready to practice and log in. Okay, awesome. Carrie Michelle Taylor, thank you. All right, Latanya. Okay, awesome. Thank you all. All right, so let's go ahead. If all of you can bring up a browser window, or if you're already in one, go ahead and navigate to www.illinoisworknet.com. As a reminder, Dan put that link in the chat for you, so you can also click there. And then you're going to go ahead, once you are on that screen, and up in the left-hand corner, choose Log In. So once you have clicked that and successfully logged in, if you can go ahead and give me kind of another thumbs up. Awesome. Thank you, Carrie. Miguel, thank you. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Thank you all. Okay. So now that we're logged in, you should have that orange navigation bar that I was just talking about, and you should see a space that, or a button on that navigation bar that says My Dashboard. So you'll click on that and you'll have a pop-up window drop down, and you should have on the right side of your screen a button that is called Customer Support Center /IWRS. So go ahead and click on that Customer Support Center button. And once you've done that, just give me another thumbs up. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Great. And of course, if you are not seeing that for some reason, please drop a note in the chat, but it seems like everyone's kind of there at this point. Okay, let's see. So Alejandro, you don't see that. Okay, so no problem, Alejandro. We will get that taken care of and just make sure that you have that set up. Okay. So now what I'm going to have you all do, and this is something, Alejandro, you can test as another way to get into the system as well, is navigate back to www.illinoisworknet.com and try to access it that alternate way. So we're going to have you get to illinoisworknet.com. And then scroll down until you see State Partner Resources. And then you're going to click View More. So once you click on View More, you're going to again go to that final row. And you're going to click the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship logo, which will bring you over to the Illinois Works Partner Guide. So if I can just get another emoji, thumbs up, cheer. What else is in here? A turtle, a bunny, whatever you want to send me, just to let me know that you guys are over there. Okay, awesome. So once you are on the partner guide, you are going to scroll down a little bit until you see all resources. And so that's those 4 circles. The leftmost circle, remember the hands with the puzzle pieces. Go ahead and click on that. So that is your access into Illinois Works reporting system. Thank you, Gia. Perfect. And so once you click on that, it is possible, I've had this happen, the system will make you re-log in. Just go ahead and re-log in. Otherwise, it should just bring you, if it doesn't make you re-log in, it'll just bring you to a screen that says groups search. So underneath that kind of groups search section, you should have Illinois Works or IL Works show up in that group section. So can I just get another emoji if you do see that IL Works in the groups screen? Awesome. Okay. Great, great, great. All right. So let's go ahead and click on IL Works. Okay, so I see Taylor and William. You guys do not see that in there. So let me, if another member of our team can just help Taylor and William to make sure that they, okay, and Jose Manuel. Okay, awesome. So thank you guys for putting that in the chat. That just helps us to make sure we know kind of where everybody's at. And our team members will kind of reach out to you privately to get that set up. Okay, so I also see Jonathan. Thank you, Vera Lee, for helping him. Okay, so Vera Lee is going to help those who cannot see it. And just remember, this is all going to be recorded. So we're just going to kind of move forward just to make sure that we kind of meet our time. But if you are one of those who is not seeing that IL Works, just know we are going to work with you to get that, make sure you have proper access. So let's go ahead to this, our next section, where we're just going to talk about the navigation bar. So once you, okay, Greg, awesome. Thank you for letting us know you got that. So once you've clicked into IL Works, what you're going to see is what is on your screen right now. So this is the main page of Illinois Works reporting system. And up at the top, we have the navigation bar. So the navigation bar is going to be available to you on every single screen, no matter where you are in IWRS. So I just want to review the features here so you all know what these features are. And then we're going to delve a little bit deeper into each of them throughout the course of this session. So all the way to the left, you will see there is an Illinois Works logo as well as an Illinois workNet logo. If you click on either of those, it will bring you back to the main page of Illinois workNet. So for those of you who can see this bar, please go ahead and just click on one of them, and it should bring you straight to illinoisworknet.com. And then if you press the back button, it'll navigate you back into the system. So just so you guys know kind of how those work together. All right, and it looks like if you can message Dan, if you are still having any issues, Dan can help as well. I did get a thumbs up, so thank you. All right, so next up, we're going to look at dashboards. So the next feature here, dashboards, if you click on that, you will have a small menu drop down. And on that menu, you will see a feature called assessments, and then you will see one called Illinois Works reporting dashboard. Let me find the exact name of it so that Illinois Works reporting system is what it is called. But that is your Illinois Works dashboard. So that is where all of your Illinois Works information is going to be. So we're going to delve into those a little bit deeper in the future. But why don't you go ahead, click on that dashboard just so you can see that drop down. Okay, I only have assessments. Okay. Okay. All right, so it seems like a lot of people are only seeing assessments on theirs. Okay. So let's get that, we'll get that addressed with SIU and just make sure everybody has access to that dashboard. So next we're gonna go on to groups. So this next icon that you can see, that is going to bring you back to that group search. So if at any point in the system you want to just kind of get back to this main page, all you'll need to do is click on groups. It'll bring you back, so you can click ILWorks and it'll bring you back to this main page. So that is the purpose of that feature. That is also where you can access if you happen to be offering any other programs that function on Illinois WorkNet. That is where you can click to locate all of those other groups that you may be a part of. The next feature is this little person icon. That is called user management. So user management is where you are going to add and edit any staff members. So as a program administrator, you have the ability to add a staff member or delete a staff member if you need to remove them from the system for some reason. So that little person icon is where you're going to do that. The next is the folder icon. So if you have that folder icon, it means that you are a program administrator. General service providers will not have that icon. And so if you click on that provider info file icon, that is where all of your individual grant information is going to be. So that's where you're going to set up your program services. That's where you'll set up your cohorts. And we'll talk about that more in depth as well.
Christine?
Yep.
There are some people that are indicating that they don't have the those icons, and so we'll definitely, I just want to reiterate, we're taking your names from the chat and we will confirm that you should have that access, and we'll ensure that SIU grants that access.
Yep. So thanks, Dan. So if it looks like a lot of kind of the same people, I'm just looking back at the chat, a lot of the same people are kind of reporting they don't have those icons. So let me just kind of make it clear. So Dan is recording all of your information. If you don't have kind of this person icon, this folder icon, you're not going to have the other icons. It sounds like they maybe didn't add you as a program administrator. So what Dan's going to do is he'll write down your names and get those over to our contact at SIU just to make sure you guys all have the correct access. So please go ahead, just message Dan privately, and he will grab that information from you. So Dan, I think you got all the names here. It looks like a lot of the same people there.
Yes, I got it.
Okay, awesome. All right, so now the next icon here is what looks like kind of a little checklist. So that icon is actually where your work site placement information is going to be. So your work site placement, so as part of a program, we require that there is some sort of work-based learning that happens. So that work site placement icon is where you can actually load that information. So if you are going to work with the housing authority, if you're going to work with a specific construction company, you can add in that work site information onto that screen. So the next icon is it looks like a bar chart. that is where all of your reports will be. So this is where you can get information on any sort of red flags in the system. You can see attendance and post assessments per participant. So there are a whole host of reports that are available in that feature that are both specifically for our program, as well as for other programs that might offer kind of some value to you. And then all the way to the right, you'll see hi. So in our picture here, it was Gia who signed in. So it'll say hi and then your username. And when you click on that, it will bring up a small drop down. This is where you can sign out of the system. This is where any sort of Illinois workNet messages will be. So all of those features will be available to you as well. And those features are available regardless of what your role is. So for those of you who maybe are having trouble kind of seeing those icons, if you click on that hi and then your username, you will have a little drop down there as well. That's where you're going to sign out of the system. So that is just a quick review. As I said, we're going to delve into each of those individually. But for right now, I know there's still some people kind of having trouble navigating, but right now, are there any questions about this navigation bar from those who are able to see the navigation bar? Okay. All right. So next up, we are going to jump into talking, walking through a little bit more of this main page. So for those of you who do not see those icons, this will all still apply to you. So you can go ahead and still navigate this section. So like I said, Dan's going to be helping making sure you get those icons. But for now, let's talk about the rest of the main page because this should all be visible to you. So by the end of this section, you will be able to navigate the main page and then add or update provider information. So let's go ahead and talk about the other features of the main page. So we just talked about that navigation bar up at the top. And next, we're going to talk about the different tabs on that page. Okay, so these different tabs you will see when you log into IWRS. So again, you can see that kind of navigation bar we just did at the top, but then underneath that main header that says Illinois Works Reporting System, you are going to see these three tabs. So participant recruitment and engagement, participant engagement and management, and work plan and report. So the participant recruitment and engagement tab, this is where all of your participant information is going to be housed. So this is where you can access individual participant profiles. You can also access information about their status. So if that participant is enrolled, if they are completed, whatever status they may exist in. And so up at the top, you can see here right underneath kind of the tab name is a field called name. You can type in a participant name if you are specifically looking for someone. That next field you are going to have pre-populated for you. So that provider name will be your organization's name. For those organizations on the call who you might have two different grants with us, so maybe you have a grant that is your Chicago location, and then you have a Aurora location. That is where you will be able, this provider dropdown is where you'll be able to choose between those two. So you'll be able to access your Chicago participants, or you'll be able to access your Aurora participants, whichever those are. For the rest of you, you're just going to have your name set in that field. And then customer status is where you can actually see and sort by that customer status. So if you want to see just a list of all of your inquiries, so maybe you're going to send out an email, promoting your new cohort, and you just want to pull your inquiries. You can pull those, you can export them, and then send that email. So this is a great feature if you're just looking for a certain kind of group of your participants. And then underneath that, you'll see kind of that search feature. So once you have updated the customer status, you'll choose search, and that will bring up that list of participants for you. So the next feature I want to talk about is right next to that search button. So it is called export. Now, the export feature, this is a very important report. You have the ability to pull this, as do your service providers. So those individuals who are just going ahead and entering participant information. This export feature will allow you to pull basically any information that you need about a participant. So there are, I believe, 36 different fields that you can go ahead and pull from. So that is anything from their demographic information, if certain assessments were done, what the results of those assessments are. If an interview score has been entered, what was their interview score, how they heard about your program, what their transition outcome was. So there's all sorts of information that you can pull from that export report. We're going to delve into that a little bit deeper, but I just want to make sure you know this is where that is located. The next button is the Student Support Needs Report. So this report is going to give you a full list of all of your participants, and then every single training service your participants are enrolled in, and if they are meeting the attendance and post-assessment thresholds for that service. So for example, if an individual is enrolled in OSHA 10, OSHA requires 100% attendance. If they do not make 100% attendance, the system will throw up a red flag, and that red flag will appear on this report. So this just gives you an aerial view of anyone who maybe isn't meeting that attendance threshold or isn't meeting your post-assessment thresholds. And then all the way to the right, you can see the Add Participant button. This tab is also where you will add any new participants. So you will do that through this button. We're going to talk more extensively about that in IWRS session number 2, when we actually will walk through and have you add a test participant and walk through the system during that session. So that is kind of all the features of this tab. This is going to be the main default tab when you log in. So all of these features you will see as soon as you log in. So I just want to make sure if you guys can throw up another emoji just to make sure that you all see this tab and these buttons in the system. Okay, great. Okay, awesome. Awesome. All right, thank you, William. Okay, perfect. So the next tab that you'll see to the right is Partner Engagement and Management. So as we talked about in the administrator orientation and through some other webinars that we've hosted during the notice of funding application process, partners are extremely important to our program. We don't expect that all of you can be covering every single aspect of this program. So we do encourage you to meet with partners to ensure that you are not only creating new partnerships, but maintaining and strengthening the ones that you have, especially around support services and transition services. So this tab allows you to track those partnerships and manage any contact you have with those partners. Now, some of you definitely, have your own ways of already doing this, but for those of you who don't, please feel free to utilize this tab. It helps you just kind of manage those items and see kind of if there's any sort of work sites available, or if a partner says, hey, we're looking for 3 apprentices to come out of your program. This is a great place to track that. And then your transition coordinators can come into this page and see that 123 Construction wants to hire three pre-apprentices when they graduate. So this is a great tab to manage that. So the next tab that we're going to review is called your work plan and report. So this work plan and report tab is going to actually be populated by our team. So it utilizes the information that you all provided to us as part of your application or as part of your renewal documents. So this is where you'll see your goal metrics. So how many people you wanted to enroll, how many people you wanted to complete, how many people you wanted to transition. And then it will connect with the system to see what your actual numbers are. So this is a good way to kind of check your own progress. So if your goal is 25, as soon as you start enrolling individuals into the system, you will see the actual numbers will start to increase. And you'll be able to kind of compare your progress. So again, this is something that we generate on our side, but it is based on the report that you all submit to us. All right. So now I just want to pause here because this next section is all about provider information. And since we do have some individuals who still do not have those icons, I want to just go ahead and actually do our break a little bit early and reach out to SIU to see if they can just make sure you all have the correct access. So those of you who have put in the chat box that you don't have access, please hang on. We're going to try to get you access right now so you can follow along with this next section. So let's reconvene at 11:12. That'll give us about 10 minutes to work with SIU. Thank you all so much for your participation and engagement so far. I'll see you in about 10 minutes. All right, welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for that impromptu break there. During our break, we were able to speak with SIU. For those of you who provided information to us that you did not have that level of access, we were able to work with SIU, and they are currently checking all of your accounts, making sure you guys have access. So I'm going to have Dan continue to work with you and just make sure that you do get the access as we're going through the system here. Just keep in mind that we did go ahead and utilize the same email that you registered for this session on. And I actually just got a message from SIU. They've just updated all of your accounts. So you should all have access. So specific message to Michelle, Jose Manuel, Marita, Taylor, Adam, William, Alejandro, Kendra, Tiara, and Greg. Go ahead and log out of Illinois WorkNet and log back in. And your new access should be there now. So if you can please continue to work with Dan. If you have any other issues on that front, go ahead and just message him privately. For the rest of us, we are going to start talking about our next section, which is the provider info page. So again, let's all make sure we're back on or in Illinois Works reporting system. And go to the top navigation bar and you're going to choose the file icon. So it looks like just a little paper file. And once you've done that, go ahead and just throw up an emoji just so I know that we're all on that provider info page. Okay, great, William. Sounds like that worked for you. Awesome. I hope that it's working for everybody else. All right, awesome. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Merrick. Thank you, William. Great. Okay. So, oh, Tanya, thank you. So our this provider info page is going to be kind of the hub of information for your specific organization. So this is not participant information, individual participant information. This is information about your organization. So you can see on the screen here, there are 4 different tabs. We're going to walk through those 4 separate tabs. And the first one is appointments. So this is just kind of a important note about Illinois Works reporting system. Because we are on the same platform as many other organizations, there are some features that are available to all of you because they are required in Illinois WorkNet, but they're not necessarily things that our team is going to require you to use or that our team, is going to look at. This appointments tab is one of those. So this tab is utilized in the event that your team, wants to kind of keep track of your general appointments, maybe with a certain partner or with a participant. You can feel free to utilize this feature. It is available to you. You're going to have your project and your provider name pre-populated for you there. And then when you click on filter, it will bring up all of the appointments that you might have set. So again, this feature is not a requirement of our program. I just mention it because it is a tab here. And if you want to use it, you can use it. Now, the next tab, file uploads, this and the next 2 are ones that we do require. So this file uploads is going to be a very important feature for 2023. Because we're going to start putting kind of communications between our team and your team in this folder. So the file uploads folder can be utilized to upload attendance rosters. It can be a good place to store instructor certifications, or if you have professional training certificates that your staff have taken that you want to upload here. It's just a great place to kind of store all of that information that maybe doesn't necessarily need to be attached to a participant profile. But this is also where you're going to get all of your communications regarding any sort of approvals. So if you submit an appeal form to our team, this is where your approvals for that will be. When we send out monthly compliance reports, that's where these will be uploaded. If we request any specific information, so sometimes we'll request eligibility documents, or we might request, your stipend policy or something like that. You can upload these here. So this is going to be utilized this year to really be a good place for our team and your team to communicate and make sure that we kind of have a history of documents in there. So you'll navigate to this tab. You'll again have your project and your provider pre-populated for you. And then you'll go ahead and you can see in the little pop-up here, you'll choose upload file, and you can go ahead and upload all sorts of things. So agency MOUs, agency contracts, staff training, credentials, fiscal reports, anything that you might want to upload here. There's a category for it. And then you'll go ahead, choose the file, click upload, and it'll be saved in the system under this file. Now, it's important because it's on this provider info page, it's important to remember this is only accessible by program administrators. So if your compliance reports and things like that, if you don't want kind of your general service providers to see those things, just make sure that they do not have program administrator access, because they will be able to see everything that we put into this area. So that is your file uploads tab. The next tab is called Grantee Details. So of these, I would say this is your most important tab on your provider info screen. So this tab is where you are actually going to be putting in all of the information regarding your program. So on the screen here, you can see the project will be auto-populated for you. Your grantee name will be auto-populated as well. And then you'll press select, the select button there, and it will auto-populate a series of sections on this page. So the first one is called Grantee Info. So this is where you'll put your location details. This is where you'll put your phone number, kind of basic contact information. And then the next section that will populate is called Associated Grants. So this Associated Grants section is where you can put any information about your Illinois Works grant agreement. So once you have your Illinois Works grant agreement, which will be coming before the end of onboarding, so we're expecting in the next couple of weeks here, mid-February, you will have your grant ID number, you have the amount of the grant, all of your associated grant details. Those can all go in this associated grants section. So you can see in the pop-up here, you have that grantee info, which is where you're going to put your contact information, and then you have that associated grants section. So next up, the next section there you're going to see is called Staff Completing Required Training. So if you have staff members, gee, it looks like the screen just went back one. Okay, perfect, yep. So staff completing required training. So this section is where you can upload any required training that your staff goes through. So say you have an instructor that you want to get NCCER certified, or you want to get NAB2 or first aid OSHA certified. This is where you can actually go in and add in the details about that training. So you can document when that individual went through their training, what certificate they received. It's a good way just to communicate back to us that you do have, maybe a new instructor that's been certified. So that's where this information is housed. The next feature here that I'm going to talk about is instructors. So you'll notice I did skip training programs because we're going to talk about that in more detail in just one second. So let's talk about the instructors section. So instructors is where you can put any existing instructor information. So if you have individuals that work on your team, then you have, their specific name, what they're going to be teaching, all of that information can go in there. But say you have a partner organization, and that partner organization is going to be acting as your instructor. So you can go ahead and put that partner's information in there. So I know at times with partners, you may not know all of the instructors' names. So you can go ahead and put that partner in there so we know that you are going to be contracting another organization to do your instruction. So next up, we have services. So services is where all of your training services, all of your support services, any transition services, this is kind of the data center for those services. So what will happen is your grant manager, based on the final curriculum form that you have all submitted, will go in and add your training services into IWRS on your behalf. And this just ensures that we kind of have all of the data that we need for when we're doing compliance checks, but it also takes a little bit of work off of your plate to not have to go in and add these training services. And once those custom training services are added, this is where the system is going to be pulling all of your training information from. So when your staff go ahead and enroll a new participant, all of the training services, so your curriculum will be auto-populated on their profile. It'll pull straight through from this section so that you do not have to go onto every single participant profile and add in every single training module. So this will save you a little bit of time. Like I said, myself or Dan will be entering your training services, so you do not have to worry about adding the items here. But this section is really good in the event that you just want to see what services are generally available. If there's services missing in this list, we can have SIU code them in. So this is just a good kind of place to go if you are offering a wraparound service or a support service or a transition service that you're not seeing populated in the system. You can just double check that it's not here, and we can always update this list of services if needed. And so the last section on this page, and this is actually brand new this year, just debuted about a week ago, and this is called cohort information. So this section will allow you to set up individual cohort information. So it will allow you to say for cohort 1, their first course is going to start on this day, it's going to end on this day, and it's going to be this number of hours. Their next training module will start on this day, end on this day, and it'll have this many training hours. So you can go through and add in all of the specific start dates, end dates, the number of hours those sessions are going to take place every week. And then again, this information, when you enroll a participant, will be auto-populated on their profile page. So again, just a time saver to make sure that your staff is not spending time going to every single participant, entering every single module, entering every single start and end and weekly hour date or hours number in there. So again, this is something that will be activated for all of our new grantees once we have entered in your training services. So just hold tight on this feature, but you should all be able to see this on your provider information grantee details screen right now. So before we kind of move on, I just want to make sure if there's anyone who's not seeing these features, not seeing this cohort information, please go ahead and put that in the chat. If you are seeing these, Please give me another emoji, just because I think I just like emojis and I think they're kind of fun. All right, awesome. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, William. Okay, Adam, Jose. Okay, awesome. So I'm recognizing some of the names from our list who couldn't access this before. So I think that we are good to go on those individuals. So great. So let's move on then to our next tab. So our next tab is training programs. So a little bit earlier, I mentioned I was skipping training programs on our grantee details page. This is why. Training programs has its own separate tab, so you can go in and set up specifics about your training program. So you will navigate to this tab here, training programs. Again, your information will be auto-populated for you, and then you'll choose filter. When you choose filter, what it's going to do is essentially start to search for any programs that you've entered into Illinois Works reporting system. For those of you who are new, you will not have anything there. So what you'll need to do is add a program. So you can see underneath that provider field, the add a program button. When you go ahead and click on that button, it's going to give you a couple of screens. So it's going to ask you some specific information about your program. So where is the location of your program? Are there any sort of restrictions on your program? So individuals are going to need to be able to lift a certain amount. Are there any specific industries that you're working with? So we're all working with construction and building trades. And then it'll get into some details about what certifications are actually going to be offered. So for the vast majority of you, it's going to be either NCCER or NAB2, first aid CPR, and then OSHA. We do have some who are also offering college certificates. So that would also be a certificate that can be added there. But this is really just going to show, give you the opportunity. Oh, thank you, Gia. So this is an example of the screen here. So this just gives you an opportunity to add that specific program information, those certificates, any base requirements. And once you add all of those in, myself or Dan, whichever grant manager you are assigned to, will go ahead and approve your training program. So the reason that this screen is a separate tab and why it's so important is because the information that you put in here, once again, gets pulled onto your participant profile. So you are able, once again, to kind of just save some time for your staff on the back end by just getting these items set up. It really gives the system the ability to auto pull through a lot of information so that your staff doesn't have to spend time kind of manually entering certificates, manually entering cohort information or training program or training modules. So that's why this provider info tab is so important. So before we move on, are there any questions about the provider info icon? Okay, so it looks like there's a couple people who might still be having some issues, but Dan is on it. Okay, all right. So, okay, and then Dan, I just want to let you know, it looks like Crystal Young is also needing a little bit of assistance if you can reach out to her. Okay, so before we move on from that, I want to let you all know for our new grantees, you will be meeting with your grant manager. So we will be sending out assignments to all grantees today. You will be meeting with your grant manager in the next week or so. And they are going to, as part of that meeting, so I or Dan are going to actually spend time with you to make sure that all of this information is set up correctly. So your training program is set up, your training services, your cohort information, all of that. So do not worry about trying to enter this information right now while we're going through it. We will work with you one-on-one to just make sure everything is set up and that you are good to go for starting to enroll your participants. So, great. Okay, so I'm just checking some chats here. Yes, so please, so Tanya just asked, should we wait until the contract info is signed to put information in? Yes, actually just go ahead and wait for your meeting with your grant manager and they'll walk you through all of these sections on specifically what needs to be uploaded there. But I just wanted to make sure you all understood kind of the purpose of these sections, what occurs in these sections, and what to expect from each of them. So now, let's go ahead. I just want to kind of do a little bit of a practice run just to make sure that you all can navigate these tabs. So again, I know there's some of you who are still working with Dan right now to get access to those. But for those of you who are able to see those tabs, I'm going to have you go ahead and navigate to the File Upload tab within your provider info screen. And once you've done that, if you can go ahead and just do a thumbs up emoji, so I know that you are able to see that file uploads. Okay, Carrie, thank you. Miguel, Greg, Alicia. Okay, great, great, great. So on
Steve?
that, yes, Dan.
Hi, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm still working with several people that still had not been able to gain access to the screens we're hoping for them to see. SIU had just messaged me, and if you are still having those issues, what they suggest is that you log off. Don't just close your browser, but log off, and then close your entire browser and log back in. It could just be a cookie that's set there. So sorry for the interruption, but that will help several people, I think.
Okay, great. So for those of you who are working with Dan, go ahead and do that. For the rest of you, if you can go ahead and walk through that file uploads feature. So you are going to go ahead and you'll click on upload file. And then go ahead and click a category. So, you know, it can be your choice if you want to do an MOU, credentials, fiscal report. I just want to make sure that we're walking through actually how to upload something to this section. So once you've chosen your category, go ahead and just click the choose file button. You don't need to upload anything right now. I just want to make sure that you that is populating for you. It's accurately accessing your system, so you have the ability to upload something into the system. Once you've done that, just go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Okay, great, awesome. All right. So the next step, if you wanted to upload that, would just be to press upload. But since we're just testing it, let's move on next to our grantee details screen. So the grantee details screen, or tab, you'll just click on that tab. Your provider / grantee name should be populated there, and then you'll just choose select, and everything should populate for you. So if you can just give me another thumbs up if all of those sections are available to you, from associated grants all the way down to cohort information. Great. Jose Manuel, thank you. Alicia, thank you. Great. Okay. William, Greg, awesome. All right. And then the last tab there, training programs, just want to make sure everyone has access to those items there. So go ahead and click onto that training programs tab. Again, you'll be auto-populated there. Just make sure when you press add program, I want to make sure that the appropriate screen shows up. So again, just give me a thumbs up if you see this program information screen when you click on add program. Awesome. Okay, thank you, William. All right, Taylor, thank you. Okay, great. All right, so for those of you who have clicked in, you can just go ahead and cancel out of that, and we are going to move on to our next page. All right, so our next section, we're going to go over user management and work site placement. So by the end of this section, you will be able to add or update a partner. So in IWRS, a partner is actually one of your staff members. So that is a word you will see there that is not necessarily always translates to what we think of as a partner. But just so you know, whenever you see in the system, it says like add partner to group, that means they're talking about your staff member. So this user management tool can be accessed by going to the navigation bar and choosing the little person icon at the top. And once you have staff members added, you will be able to see all of the staff that are added to your organization. So you should all see yourselves in there at this point, since you are very likely the only ones who have been added to your organization as of yet. But let's say you now want to go ahead and add another staff member. What you're going to do is on this user management screen, you'll choose Add Partner to Group. So once you click on Add Partner to Group, you are going to have this pop up that is here on the slide, and it's going to ask you some basic information about that individual. So it's going to ask their first name, their last name, their birth date, the email address that they signed up for an Illinois workNet account with, zip code. And what the system is doing is it's trying to match the information you're putting in to an existing Illinois workNet profile. So your staff member will need to have an Illinois workNet profile set up, but as long as they do, you'll put in this information, you'll choose Add Partner, and the system will ask you to confirm, is that the partner you wanted to add? So as long as that is the partner you wanted to add, you will confirm that, and then they will show on the list of all of your staff members. So on this next slide, so Gia, if you could just advance one. Perfect. So on this next slide here, you're going to see, you can start to see a couple of our staff members from 2022. So you can see Anthony is there, Amber is there. Once you add your partners, that is how your staff members will show up. So you'll have a full list of them. You'll be able to add them either to just your organization, or you'll be able to add them generally to if you have multiple locations or multiple grants with us, you can kind of switch them in between. But either way, once you add your staff member, they will show up in this screen. So the next step, we're going to look at how to delete a partner. So, you know, as we all know, it's possible that someone may get switched to a different program, or they may leave the organization and you no longer want them to have access to IWRS. So in the event that you need to delete a partner, what you'll do is you'll navigate to this user management screen. So again, you'll get to this screen by going to that navigation bar. Up at the top, you should have a little person icon. You'll click on that person icon, and this will be the main screen that you should see. Gia, if you could actually go, yep, that's perfect. So this is the main screen that you'll see. And then you're able to get a list of your staff, and all the way to the right, you can see an area that says add/remove partner. In the event that you need to delete a partner, you're just going to choose that red X. So that red X will populate a kind of confirmation screen just to make sure that you are not accidentally deleting this person. And then once you confirm it, they will be removed from Illinois Works reporting system. So this is just in the event that you need to delete someone from your from your IWRS user tool. So I do see some chats popping up that you guys, some of you do not have access to this tool. So if you can just continue to privately message Dan through the WebEx chat, just so that he can kind of collect those names, and then he can work with SIU kind of on the back end to make sure that you have that access. Again, if you can just privately message Dan, so we can just keep the chats to him. And then if anybody has questions, we're not losing any questions in that chat feature. So let's move on. So now that we know how to add a partner, we know how to delete a partner. Again, partner in this space means a staff member. The next icon up is work site placement. So work site placement is where you can enter any information about a specific job site, about work-based learning sites. Some individuals also utilize this if they know they have partners who have work sites who are looking for employees. So all of that information can be added here. So this work site placement can be accessed by going to the navigation bar at the top, and you will see what looks to be kind of a little checklist icon. So that little checklist icon you can see on the screen is actually highlighted in blue here. So when you click on that, it'll bring you to this work site placement screen. You will again have your project and your provider name auto-populated for you. And then you can choose employment type there. So if you're looking for just work-based learning opportunities, if you're looking for employment opportunities, you can choose what type of employment you are looking for there, and then filter. And once you press filter, it will allow the system to know that you just want work-based learning sites or you just want employment sites. And it'll populate the list of any employers or work-based learning sites that you've entered. If you need to enter a new work-based learning site, you will go ahead and click on the rightmost button here that says Add Employer/Work Site. So when you click on that button, it will go ahead and populate a screen where you can add in all of their information. So any information, specifically contact information, what location, how many positions they might have available. But all of those will allow you to kind of create almost a profile for that work site. And so once you create that profile for that work site, you're able to then start to assign participants to that work site. So here on the screen, you'll see all of the different aspects of the work site. So you can outline the employer information, what placement. So if an employer has multiple work sites, you can add in all of their work sites there. And then there is a payroll tab. So this is not a tab that we use. So I know I mentioned earlier, Illinois workNet has a lot of features in it that we don't necessarily utilize, but it's required to be part of the system. Payroll is one of those. So this is not a required tab. You do not need to put anything in the payroll tab. I often actually encourage people to avoid that, because we try to avoid anything that might sound like a wage or some sort of payment for employment or things like that. And this screen is really just kind of maintaining payroll, which none of you will be doing for your participants, because your participants will not be employees. So I just want to note that it's there, but it is not required. Do not feel like you need to fill that out. So any questions on worksite placements? Okay. I'm not seeing any questions. So I'm going to go ahead and let's move on to our next section. Okay. So Section 7, we are going to be talking about reporting tools. But before we jump into that, I just want to make sure, and let me just check in with Dan here. Dan, can you just give me an update on where everybody stands as far as getting the proper icons?
Yeah, it appears that 7 or 8 people actually lost the ability to see their icon. A couple have restarted their computers and still don't have the user management icons. So I'm just about to send this back to SIU.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dan. And thank you everyone, those 7 or 8 for your patience on this. I'm not sure what would have made it show up and then disappear on you. So thank you for your patience on that while Dan is working with David from SIU to try to address those issues. So let's go ahead and move on to our next section. So this section is all about the reporting tools that are available in IWRS. So by the end of this section, you will be able to access the reporting tools, including dashboards, the work plans, student support services, attendance, post-assessment scores. So some of these you will recognize, we kind of did an overview of them on the IWRS main page, but now we're going to be actually delving into each of these tools so you can see what they look like and start to understand what usefulness they have for you. So the first tool we're going to look at is our dashboards. So on the main page, or really any page of IWRS, you are going to have this navigation bar up at the top. And when you click on dashboards, you will have this drop-down menu appear. So you should have both assessment and Illinois Works reporting system show up on that drop-down. So for those of you who are still working with Dan, I know you might have just had assessment, but once the system is set, this is what it should look like. So you should have assessment and you should have Illinois Works reporting system. So for those of you who are following along, if you want to go ahead, click on that dashboard button, have the drop down come down, and then go ahead and click on assessment. And then once you've done that, if you can just give me a thumbs up so I can make sure that you guys are on that kind of assessment page. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Greg. Okay, great. All right, so let's talk about the assessment feature. So the assessment feature is another one of those that is required by Illinois WorkNet, but it is not something that we require with Illinois Works. Now, the reason that I bring it up is because I know we have had grantees who have found some usefulness in some of the assessments that exist in this feature, and they have chosen to utilize them in their programs. That is always an option to you. So anything that's in this system, you can always feel free to do more in this system. You can always feel free to use any of these features. But I just want to make it clear that for our team, we will not require anything in this assessment area. But once you click on that assessment area, you will see a whole host of different assessments that have been made for different programs across Illinois. And some of them are, like career assessments, some of them might be soft skills assessments, but this is where they're all housed. So the next feature we have is the Illinois Works reporting system dashboard. So that dashboard specifically is going to house, oh, sorry, I jumped ahead of you. So this is just an example of one of those assessments. but the Illinois Works Reporting System dashboard. So that dashboard is where you're going to get all of your programmatic information. So once you go ahead and click on that Illinois Works Reporting System button, if you can just give me another thumbs up. Awesome. Thank you, Miguel. Thank you, Adam. Okay, great. So this dashboard acts as a summary report for data that is being entered into IWRS. So on this report, you are going to see red flags, intake, participant engagement, earned credentials, completion information, provider and employer information, and follow-up information. So this really will give you kind of a bird's eye view of anything that is happening in the Illinois Works reporting system. So this is a really great tool for program administrators. One important aspect of this dashboard is that if you find a field that you want more information on, you will see on your screen here, for example, that we have, participants with a red flag, and then we have absence, post-assessment, past due follow-up date. Next to all of those, to the right of all of those, is a number. So that number is hyperlinked. And when you click on that number, you are actually able to get a list of those participants. So for example, on this screen, you see past due follow-up date, and that has 13 individuals. If you were to go and click that number 13, the system will bring you to a list of participants, and that list of participants will be those 13 that you were looking at. So in the event you want to follow up with those individuals because they're past due their dates, here's a list of who you need to follow up with. If you have a group of individuals who, maybe they have high rates of absences and you want to reach out to them to start working with them to get maybe tutoring or extra support services to help them, arrive to class on time or not miss class. Again, you can click on that number, you'll get a list of those participants, and then you can start working with those participants from that list. So that's a really important feature of this dashboard. It's not just going to give you the numbers, it will also actually help facilitate actions that you and your team can take. So are there any questions about this dashboard or that assessments dashboard before we move on? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. Oh, thank you, Jose Manuel. So if you guys, I just want to make sure everyone was able to see that dashboard. So if you can just give me kind of another thumbs up or emoji just to make sure you were able to see that dashboard. Okay, great.
Or again, you can message me directly if you cannot, and then I can let Christine know. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our next reporting tool. So to get to our next reporting tool, you are going to go back to that navigation bar, and now you're going to choose the bar chart. So the bar chart is going to take you to a screen called Reports. So again, in this section, you are going to have a lot of reports available to you. Some of them have been created for other programs. So you can see on the screen here, this is a good example. You have DHS. You don't need to do anything with those reports. What you'll do is actually you can search by that project. Gia, can you actually go back one? So you can search by the project up at the top and you'll choose Illinois Works, and that will bring up the reports that were specifically made for our team. And so those reports include two. On this next slide here, you're going to see the two reports that we created specifically for our grantees. So the first one is the Student Support Services report, and the second one is attendance and post-assessment scores. So that Student Support Services report, so this is the one that you also can access from that main page by just pushing the Student Support Services report button. But you can also access it through this reporting feature. So you will see a full list of all of the different reports you can get. This Student Support Services report link will bring you into that report. So again, this is a report if there's any sort of red flags around attendance, if there's any sort of red flags around post assessments, this is the report where you will not only be able to see what participants have those red flags in the system, but also what specific training modules those red flags are on. So you'll be able to also sort by if you just want to see individuals who maybe are falling behind on attendance, if you just want to see individuals who are falling behind on their post assessments, perhaps you only want to see, what participants have red flags from this time range. All of those options are available to you through this report. And once you've chosen the fields that you want to search by, you will press filter, and the system will bring up all of the participants and all of their services that match those criteria. So again, this is a really great report for program administrators because they have the ability to get that bird's eye view. So you're really able to see specifically what students might be in need of additional support and in what certain classes they might be in need of support. So if you have a lot of students who maybe have a red flag around post assessments in construction math, that might be a good indicator that you want to start looking for or hosting extra tutoring sessions, or you want to look for a partner who will do math, extra math assistance, or maybe some, math self-study halls or things like that. So this report can be used in a lot of different ways, but it really does give you a whole host of information. So the next report is the attendance and post-assessment report. So again, on that reports screen, you are going to find the attendance and post-assessment scores. That is right below your student support service report. You will click into that, and this report will actually tell you the number of attendance hours and the post-assessment scores related to each participant in each training service. So you will be able to see, if I'm in a cohort, you will be able to see how many hours of attendance have been entered for me in each of my training services. And then if I passed those training services, so what score did I get on my post assessments in each of those courses? So again, this is just kind of an aggregate report so you can get that aerial view of what's happening with all of your participants instead of going one by one per participant. So any questions about these two reports before we move on? Okay. All right. So next up, we are going to talk about the work plan report. So again, this work plan report, we touched on it a little bit earlier. It is that third tab on the main page, the rightmost tab. So when you click on that, you will be taken to a screen where all of your cohorts will be available to you. So you'll be able to click on a specific cohort if you only want to look at cohort 1 data or cohort 2 data, or all of your plans can be available to you. So once you log on to that screen, You can see here, this is just kind of our sample cohort. But you'll see here, you'll have your goal metrics for enrollment, you'll have your completion metrics, and then your transition metrics. So whatever your goals were based on that work plan document your team submitted, those will be entered into the system. And then the next column is called actual number of individuals. So this is pulled from IWRS. So when you mark someone as enrolled in cohort 1, the system will automatically add them to this number. So you're always able to see how are you progressing towards your per cohort goals. And then the two rightmost columns show your start and end dates for each of those goals. So it was your goal to enroll 20 individuals between February 28th and April 8th. So the system is able to kind of make sure that you're progressing, show that progress, but also just remind you of kind of what's the timeline that your team is working through. So again, this is available on that main page. You just click on that tab, and then you are able to see all of the details per cohort. And this is just a great way, especially for program administrators coming up to compliance reviews, to see where you stand in relation to those goals. Okay, so again, I just had a comment in the chat, so I just want to make sure we're all kind of on the same page here. So on the main page of IWRS, so you can see on your screen here, so make sure that your screen looks like this. So you should have your 3 tabs there. So your participant recruitment and engagement, your partner engagement and management, and then your work plan and report tab. So if you are somewhere else in the system, the way to get back to this screen, again, is to go to that groups button on your navigation bar. You'll click on groups, and then you'll click ILWorks as your group, and that will bring you back to this kind of main, this main default screen here. So for anyone who is maybe lost at this point, just go ahead and navigate to groups, choose ILWorks, and that will bring you back to this main screen here. So once you've done that, just put a thumbs up. So ILWorks is not, Carrie, ILWorks is not a tab. So again, that is in that groups button. So on the navigation bar, if you click on groups, you will see ILWorks as one of your group options. Click on
I don't have that as a group option. That's my point. I meant, instead of tabs, I meant to say group option. Is it because we haven't signed our contract yet?
Nope. So Carrie, you've been following along the other steps. So you were able to get into these other pieces of the system. Is that correct?
Yeah. We've got our apprenticeship Illinois grant in there, but I'm not seeing anything for Illinois Works or the ILWorks.
Oh, okay. Have you been able to follow along on the other tabs though in the system?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay. How did you get into those other tabs? Did you just click on your apprenticeship Illinois one? Okay.
Yes.
So let me actually have Dan get you set up, because you should have access to the ILWorks one. And then once you get into ILWorks, you'll be able to see this work plan and report tab.
Okay.
So
thanks.
if you're not seeing that ILWorks tab, please just message Dan, and he's working with SIU to get you guys so you have full access. Okay, so the work plan and report, again, is kind of this aggregate report that will be useful for all of the program administrators to be able to see your progress towards your goals. And then it's also a helpful tool, as you are coming up to compliance. If you're seeing the system's only saying we have 10 people enrolled, but we know for sure that we have 20 sitting in our classroom, it's a good way to make sure that everyone in the system has the correct status. So is everyone that should be showing as enrolled actually enrolled, or are they still as an applicant in the system? So again, just a good tool to use as you come up to compliance. So any questions about the work plan and report? Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and now this next option or this next reporting tool is your export tool. So again, on that main page overview, and those of you who are in the Illinois Works reporting system, this will be on that kind of main default page when you sign into Illinois Works reporting system. And you will access this report underneath, or I'm sorry, you will access this report right next to the search button on that main participant and recruitment page. So that button will clearly say export on it. You're going to click on that button and then a pop-up will appear. So that pop-up is like the one on the screen here. And it will give you a whole host of export features. So some of the items that you can get through this export report are all of your customers' current statuses, or I apologize, all of your participants' current statuses, their first name, their last name, emails, birth dates, any other contact information you need from them. If you are trying to develop any sort of demographic reports for, say, you're doing an annual report on the program or something like that, you can get all of their demographics from this export. You also can get specific information about where they are in the program. So if they have any red flags, if they didn't fill out a wraparound service assessment, or they didn't do their transition career assessment, all of that is also accessible in here. So again, this is another really useful tool to be able to see and dig into your participant data as you are coming up on compliance. So something that I suggest all of our kind of program administrators do is towards the end of each month, just go ahead and pull this export for all of your participants and just double check that everyone who's on there who is enrolled should be enrolled. Make sure that, if they are in that applicant status or inquiry status, but they should be as enrolled, go ahead and switch them. If there is key information missing, so if they don't have an interview score or none of their contact information is filled out, this is a good way to kind of grab any sort of data gaps. And will help you as a program administrator really start to kind of delegate that work out to your team, or talk with specific staff members about, updating the system before we pull our compliance report. Because again, we can only go off the data that's in the system. So if data is missing in the system, we don't know, what it's supposed to be, so we can't count it towards your compliance. So utilize this export as a way to really make sure that you are filling all of those data gaps. So any questions on the export report? Okay. So I want to have you guys practice using this export report. So I know for those of you who are still trying to get access to that IWRS group, Dan is working with you, but for the others who are in the system, I'm going to have you go to that main IWRS page, and you should be on the participant recruitment and engagement screen. So if you can just give me a thumbs up if you are there. All right, awesome. Awesome. Okay, so now on that screen, you will see the series of buttons. So there'll be a search button and then there'll be your export button. So if you can go ahead and click export. And then once that pop-up comes up, I want you to just take a minute to look through each of those fields that's available to you. And notice that, you know, depending on the use of that information, you might just choose a couple of them. If you, for whatever reason, want to download all of the data, at the top there, you'll see a select/deselect all. And that way you can literally pull every single piece of data on every single participant that you might want. So once you go ahead, choose a couple of fields, and then you'll press export. So for right now, you won't have data in the system for our new grantees. We do have a couple renewed grantees on the call. You guys will pull through your participant data. But I just want you to see that once you press export, the system will auto-generate an Excel sheet for you. And that will have all of those fields as individual columns. And then all of your participant names will be on the left side. So in that first column. So you'll be able to kind of track across and see, and be able to filter any of that data within Excel, as you would with, any other Excel spreadsheet. So this tool is extremely useful if you are someone who is tasked with verifying the data in IWRS, to be able to get all of this key information. All right. So I just got a couple of thumbs up. Okay, awesome. Okay, so that's telling me, I hope that people were able to utilize that export report, click on some of those fields, and that Excel downloaded, even if it was blank. All right, so let's go ahead now, and we're gonna actually jump to our final section. And we're running a little bit early, and so what I'm going to ask you guys to do is I'm going to go through this last section. It's just talking about some resources on using IWRS, and then I'm going to hand it to Gia for evaluation. But those of you who are still struggling with the system, I'm going to ask you beyond the evaluation to just hang on with us, so we can kind of do some one-on-one technical assistance with you. If you are someone who has been able to get into the system, you've been able to follow along after the evaluation with Gia, please feel free to hop off the call, and so we can just kind of work through any sort of technical issues that others are having. So let's talk now about some of the resources for IWRS. So by the end of this section, you'll be able to access additional IWRS resources, including instruction guides, tutorial videos, anything that you might want for those resources. So all of those resources are going to be found at the Illinois Works Partner Guide. So the Illinois Works Partner Guide provides grantees with resources to navigate Illinois Works reporting system. So the way to access the Illinois Works Partner Guide is, we kind of did this a little bit earlier as a way to get into the Illinois Works reporting system. But to access it, you can go to www.illinoisworknet.com. And then you can navigate to the bottom of that main page on Illinois WorkNet until you see the area called State Partner Resources. And that will have this list of all of the different programs that Illinois WorkNet offers, including our program. So go ahead and find our logo. You can click on the logo there, and that will take you to the Illinois Works Partner Guide. I strongly encourage you to favorite the Illinois Works Partner Guide, so you do not have to go through all of these steps to get to it every time. But once you are on the Illinois Works Partner Guide, there are a couple of places you're going to find resources for Illinois Works reporting system. So the first is the video tutorial and training materials circle here. So you'll see on that main page of the Illinois Works Partner Guide that that series of circular buttons. You will select the second one, which is, I believe, a person holding a tablet. And that's going to take you to our video tutorials and training materials page. So I'm going to pause there. I want to make sure everyone has been able to access the Illinois Works Partner Guide before we move on to our next step. So if you can just throw up an emoji to make sure you're on the Partner Guide, you see these circles on your screen. Okay, great. Okay. So if you were on the Partner Guide, go ahead and click that video tutorials and training materials circle. And that will take you over to our tutorial page. So you're going to see a couple of different kind of YouTube boxes there. Some of them are all of these webinars. So this is where you will find all of these recorded webinars. You will also see some tutorials for our other database, the applicant tracking system. But one of those boxes is specifically IWRS tutorials. So these are short tutorial videos. Generally, they are under 10 minutes, and they are specifically designed to help walk you through different aspects of the system. So instead of watching or kind of sifting through a long webinar, these are designed to specifically guide you on how to just add an applicant, just add attendance, how to add in grantee details. So things like that. Like I said, they're generally about 5 to 10 minutes. But these are great kind of just refreshers if you forgot how to do something or something's not quite working in the system and you're not sure if you're clicking on the right thing. These are great tutorials, quick. We'll walk you through how to do those functions. So the next circle button I want to talk with you about. So if you can all kind of navigate back to that main page of the Illinois Works Partner Guide, and just give me a thumbs up once you're there. Awesome, thank you, Taylor. All right, Adam, thank you. Okay, Crystal, awesome. Okay, so now that you're on that main page, I want you to go ahead and click the next circle. So it looks like a small checklist, and it's called full list of resources. So go ahead and click that button. Now, the full list of resources is where you are going to find all of your written directions for IWRS. So unlike the video tutorials page and training materials where you're going to find webinar recordings, you'll find, presentation slides. The full list of resources is where you're going to get step-by-step written directions on how to navigate IWRS. So in this section, you will notice on the full list of resources page, just hoping that everyone is there. If you want to give me another emoji, I know I'm making you do so many emojis, but it just helps me know kind of where you guys are in the process. Okay, awesome. So once you're on that screen, you're going to notice that that screen is designed and follows kind of the same format as that pre-apprentice life cycle. The reason that we did that is we wanted to make sure that you have every resource available to you as you navigate that pre-apprentice life cycle. So starting with outreach and recruitment all the way through follow-up, each one of those steps has its own section on that page. And you're able to walk through and see not only documents that we provide you, so templates that we have created, but there will also be IWRS directions specifically for each of those life cycle steps. So how to add a new participant, how to enroll a participant, how to add a wraparound service or a student support service, how to add in any sort of transition information. Anything that you might need, there are written directions for that. Now, I just want to note, there are not necessarily always with the written directions, there's not always a companion tutorial video. However, if for whatever reason you are having trouble navigating, or for whatever reason the directions just aren't kind of helping the way that you want them to help, please always know that you can reach out to your grant manager. We are well versed in this system. We can help you or get you help if there is some sort of glitch happening in the system. So please, if all else fails, if you get to this resource site and you just can't quite figure it out, do not hesitate to reach out to us. I like to say ask early and often. It helps us to be able to know what's going on early in a process so that you don't get 2 months down the line and realize there's something haywire and now you have to kind of go backwards and redo work. No one wants to do that. Your teams don't want to do that. We don't want to make you do that. So please, if there's something you're confused about, just reach out to us. So are there any questions about these resources or kind of this presentation so far? Feel free to unmute, put a question in the chat. Okay. I'm not seeing anything here. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to hand this off to Gia. Gia is going to walk you through just our program evaluation. I want to thank you all again for participating today. Thank you for your patience for those who had some struggles getting into the system. Again, after Gia's finished her evaluation, those of you who are having trouble logging into the system, please hang on for a couple minutes, and Dan and I will work with you and try to get you guys all set up in the system so you have access to everything that we covered today. So thank you so much, and I'll hand it to Gia.
All right, thank you, Christine. So many of you have been with us a few times now. We're going to do our evaluation, and you should already be familiar with Mentimeter. If not, here is information that can help you log into Mentimeter, which will allow you to participate in the evaluation process. Your feedback is important to us. I hope that many of you have experienced some of the changes we've implemented via your feedback in some of the previous sessions. So let's do the feedback again. Type in www.menti.com, and here is the code on the screen. I have all this information in the chat, which will help make it a little bit easier, as well as there's also a direct link. Let's see. Oh, Dan has put it in the chat. Dan, thank you so much. And then I'm also just going to share the link then. Use either of these to log into Mentimeter. Is everyone able to log in?
Gia, I just want to let you know on the shared screen here, I'm just seeing a black bar. I'm not seeing Mentimeter. I just want to make sure we're
Yep,
seeing the
that's
correct
helpful.
thing.
Yeah, thank you, Christine. Let me try that again. There we go. Can we see Menti now?
Yes, perfect.
Awesome. All right. And is everyone able to log into Menti? Let me ask, anyone not able to? Okay, it looks like we're good. Thank you for the feedback. And upside, this part goes relatively quick. So the first question is, please share your views on this training by rating the following 1 to 10. And questions are, to what extent did it meet your expectations? How likely are you to bring to others? Christine, can you all hear me?
You're breaking up a little bit, Gia. Do you want me to read the questions?
Yeah, I was asking, how many people are still in the room?
We have 27 participants.
Okay, awesome. Okay, right now we have 22 respondents. If you have not done so, please just log in and you can use the code or the link that I and first in. And if you are having trouble, Christine barely are available. Okay, this course was that I wanted to learn about the subject matter.
Okay, so again, this question is the course was relevant to what I wanted to learn about this subject matter. Thank you for those who have gone ahead and voted. Great, thank you. Looks like we have about 10 people who have voted so far, so you are still logging in. I know Vera Lee just went ahead and put the link in the chat again. So thank you all for participating. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead to our next question. So you're still able to vote on these, even if we kind of advance. But our third question is here is I plan to apply what I learned. So strongly agree, somewhat agree or disagree, somewhat disagree, or strongly disagree. I plan to apply what I learned. Okay, great. Great, thank you. Okay. All right, so our next question is what improvements might you recommend? So again, like Gia had said earlier, you know, we really do try to make improvements to these if we can make it easier to follow or more effective. So what improvements might you recommend? Okay, great. So we have 12 votes now. Okay, great. Access to the site being reviewed. Okay, go a bit slower. Okay, definitely. Okay, great. All right, so let's move to our next question. Okay, so what did you find effective? If we make changes, what would you recommend we keep? So again, what did you find effective? If we can make changes, if we make changes, what would you recommend we keep? Okay, hands on, thank you. Okay, thank you for that feedback. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you all for your answers. Great. Okay. So next, is there anything else about this course you think we should know? So maybe something we haven't asked about yet. Anything else about this course you think we should know? So this is our last evaluation question. So any last minute items that you would like us to know about? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, well, thank you so much. The voting kind of will continue to be available to you all as you others continue to vote here. So thank you all for your feedback. We will review this and try to implement this kind of in our next in our future trainings, but especially in our next IWRS training. So again, thank you all for participating. For those of you who maybe are still having some issues or still having some access issues, please stay on. For everyone else, thank you so much for attending. You can feel free to hop off. We are going to actually be joined by our representative from SIU in just a minute here. So for those of you who are having issues getting into the system, he is going to be available to help just make sure you have the access that you need. So please hang out with us one more minute if you need some extra assistance.